In our second lesson on the sociology of crime and deviance with a new specification, we're looking at the social construction of deviance. So, deviance and criminality varies wildly between different cultures. In some countries, one thing is illegal and deviant, in others it's not. It's a social construction. So, for example, this bloke here in Saudi Arabia is being publicly whipped for drinking alcohol. Something that's not illegal in our country, not even deviant in our country, is both illegal and seriously deviant in Saudi Arabia. If deviance and criminality was an instinct, everything would be a crime and deviant all over the world. As you can see, it varies between cultures. It also varies over time. Cultures change what they see as deviant and criminal over time. It will stick with alcohol. So we talked about Saudi Arabia, alcohol being illegal today and deviant. In the USA in the 1920s, they tried to ban alcohol. In fact, they did ban alcohol. It's called prohibition. So alcohol became illegal. All it did is made criminals millionaires. So you've got a situation where deviance and criminality can change over time. Again, if it was an instinct, it wouldn't change. On the whole, the culture changes and then the laws change to match it. Yeah? However, sometimes the law can be changed as a way to affect the culture. Yeah? So cigarettes being banned is a really good example of this. Cigarette smoking is not illegal in this country. It is steadily becoming more and more deviant. To nudge that along, the government banned smoking indoors at any sort of workplace or public place. At first, it was greeted with outrage by many people, but now it's just people shrug their shoulders. It seems like it's always been that way. It was a very similar thing with car seat belts in the 1970s and 80s. Cars have always had seat belts. People didn't wear them. The government changed the law, say you had to wear them. People were upset about doing it, and now it's become part of the culture. So you can change the culture by changing the law in certain circumstances, but it's normally the other way around. Okay, functionalists have a bit of a problem with crime and deviance. In their perfect machine view of culture, it really shouldn't exist. However, it does. Now, one of the ways they explain deviance is that often deviance and criminality helps change the culture in ways that it needs to change. People deliberately act in a deviant way to point out that the law and the culture is wrong, and that causes the law and the culture to change. So, for example, think about American civil rights for black people. The Freedom Riders deliberately broke the law and rode on particular buses in the wrong seat. They got attacked and beaten up by racists and the police, but they kept at it, and it pointed out to most Americans that this law was wrong, and so that law got changed. So to a functionalist, the function of crime and deviance can be to point out when the law and the culture is wrong and to get it to change, to force it to change. Now, to Marxists, of course, their whole view of crime and deviance is based around class conflict, and they will point out that the way our culture defines crime and deviance suits the bourgeoisie. We ignore, for example, white-collar crime. We're not that bothered about it. So people commit tax fraud, barely reported on. Newspapers are full of people committing benefit fraud, even though benefit fraud costs the government way less than tax fraud. And to a Marxist, that's not a mistake, that's structural. Yeah? With the way our society has constructed deviance, is based on what the bourgeoisie wants, according to a Marxist, because they've got hegemony, therefore they can control the culture. So it all adds up to crime and deviance being a social construction. We've decided Let's think about tattoos. 50 years ago, tattoos were for criminals and drug users and sailors, and now everyone's got them. And it used to be quite shocking to see people with tattoos. It used to be really shocking to see females with tattoos, and that was a social construction. And that social construction has changed. Or think about this bloke here. His name was Audie Murphy. He was the most decorated US soldier of World War II. That means he won the most medals. In his various heroic actions, he killed at least 35 Germans. In everyday life, he would be a serial killer, a murderer, locked up. He's a psychopath. Yet during a war, he becomes a great hero. It's not the killing, it's the context. It's the social context, the social construction of deviance.